that don't know me, my name is Lucas Mara, and along with Kate, who is our current Zoom provider. ThoughtWorks always provides a space, both in person and virtually, so I've got to thank ThoughtWorks for their continued support. They normally provide liquid refreshments. Obviously, it's a bit hard to deliver the beers to so many various locations, so we have to go to supply your own, unfortunately. We've got Ben on the call, so obviously one of the original founders of the meetup as well, so I have to thank Ben for his continued support. And I don't know if Zoe, there she is. Yep, there's Zoe. So thank you, Zoe, again. Also, hopefully we're going to create another great event for you guys. We want to try and make this as interactive as possible. Hopefully you enjoyed just getting out there and having a chat to some of your SydDT community before we get into proceedings. Before we go any further though, I do want to hand over to Kate, and Kate will do the acknowledgement of country.
Thank you, Lucas. I think someone might need to mute themselves. I'm not sure who. Thank you very much. So welcome everyone. I'd first just like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. And because I'm in Sydney, those traditional custodians are the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. And there's probably, for the rest of you, a number of different original custodians. But for all those elders, we pay our respects to elders both past and present. And just as an aside, I've been reading this fabulous book by Bruce Pascoe about the Aboriginals and Torres Strait Islanders' use of the land, and they really were amazing custodians. And the book is dark new, and I would absolutely recommend it. It's a brilliant read, and it tells the true history of the land going back 60,000 years. So on that note, I will hand back over to Lucas.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Kate. And I must say, my wife's read that book and has highly recommended it, and it's on my bedside table, so I've got to pick it up and read it. So yeah, but anyway, again, thanks everyone for joining us. Look, now is the time to obviously, actually, before we even introduce our speakers, I do want to share the results of our work just so people can see what's come up after everyone's. There you go. There's some weird words in there. So let's just see what everyone's putting there. So obviously the key word there is fun. Obviously play is fun. We hope to have a bit of fun in life. So silly's come up a bit. Learning, I think we'll hear a bit about learning, which is good. I think, yeah, friends make sense as well. So I think there's also lots of activities in there. So yeah, thank you for contributing. I think, Arun, I can see your crazy gibberish that you put in there. I think we spoke about.
We did.
But that's what play is. It's about being a bit crazy. And I think what Arun mentioned was it's about being carefree and just letting go. So hopefully you guys are ready to let go and have some fun tonight. We've got a couple of great speakers that both play in this space. No apologies for the pun. And yeah, so I want to sort of first of all start off with Natalia. So Natalia has actually presented at our meetup once in the past as part of a partnership, but focusing on something slightly different. But Natalia's specialisation is actually working within building spaces for children and for play. And Natalia was lucky enough to win a Churchill Fellowship and actually travel the world. And probably she was lucky she did it last year, not this year. Because she managed to get to see how various cultures create space that promote play. And so she's going to share some of her insights through her journey in life from specialising in this area, but hopefully also showing a little bit of her insights from her fellowship last year. And if you are interested too, we'll share a link. Natalia's got a free book that she's published that I've had a read through, and it's quite an inspiring, quite an interesting read when you look at what she's discovered over the last year. So I'll hand over to you, Natalia, and thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. We actually had a really interesting discussion in the breakout room. So I was kind of sad to leave that discussion, but it kind of started delving into the differences between structured and unstructured play. So hopefully we can get back into that a bit later on, but I'll just share my screen. Okay, so can you see?
Yeah, you'll need to flip your screens around.
Oh, right.
If you go left, if you go to display settings on your notes screen, there's there's an option to switch them. Yep. Beautiful.
Sorry. I'm not just sharing all the...
It's ironic. We actually did a dry run before. We never actually did hit present on the
Yeah. Okay. This might work. Is that working now?
Yep, perfect.
Okay, great. So as Lucas said, I'm an architect who specialises in the design of spaces for children, and a particular focus and interest of mine is space for play. And I've always been sort of really fascinated by this question of what it is about the built environment that makes it a really great space for children to grow up in, and also enables children to really play outside and belong as part of their kind of urban environments. I would also like to begin by respectfully acknowledging the traditional country and paying my respect to elders both past, present and emerging. I think that we have a lot to learn from Indigenous people of this country when it comes to how we might live more sustainably, and also how we might inspire future generations to be custodians of the natural and built world in which we belong. And so in that line, I wanted to share with you a quote from a book that I've been reading. And in it, the author describes Aboriginal children at play. She says, "Frolicking in sparkling blue sea, scampering along bright white sand, climbing into deep green fruit-laden trees, slipping and sliding on grey mud. The sounds that go with these memories are squeals of delight and expectation. The feeling is of boundless energy, running, jumping, swimming and throwing. These children were lucky. They lived in the bush on their own land, never appeared to be bored, and were forever finding new and exciting things to do." I think this is a really beautiful description of what play might look like, but also what a really rich childhood might be like also. And I think the question that I really have is, how do we give children this sort of experience, but particularly in a world that's so rapidly urbanizing? So we know that almost 70% of the world's population is predicted to live in urban areas by 2050. So we're urbanizing very quickly, we're becoming more vertical, and I suppose the space play is becoming more and more critical. This is a photo of Tokyo. The population of Greater Tokyo area is 37 million people. So how within a dense community of 37 million people can you actually find a space for play? And how can we really design to that human scale? While I was on my fellowship journey, I visited Tokyo, and Tokyo has these spaces called urban kind of play yards. And in one of these play yards, I found a boy, and this is a photo of him. He was about 8 years old and he had autism. And it was only after about 3 or 4 hours of spending time in this play park that I actually looked up and noticed him sitting up in the trees. And it was, really incredible. The play workers who work in these spaces explained to me that basically they created this makeshift tree house for him, because he didn't like so much to be directly engaged with the children, but really still wanted to be involved and be observing of what was happening around him. So I felt that this image was basically the benchmark of what a great city, a livable city, really feels like. If within a city of 37 million people like this, you can create a space for a child like this, then I think you've kind of ticked the box in terms of creating a really great city for everybody. As the former mayor of Bogota, Enrique Peñalosa, he said, children are a kind of indicator species. If we can build a successful city for children, then we will have a successful city for everybody. I think this is really critical in terms of, well, play and children themselves. If we really think to that scale of what a great environment might be for them, then we're probably going to tick a lot of boxes in terms of making great spaces for the elderly, making great spaces for people with disabilities, and a really inclusive space for everybody. So as was mentioned, I had the opportunity right before COVID, perfect time to travel the world and explore what playful environments might look like. And through my research, I also had the opportunity to meet with a lot of children all over the world and talk and workshop with children of what playful spaces might look like to them. But before I delve into some of the spaces that I found that I thought were really inspiring, I'm going to briefly touch on what play is. And I think most of us really instinctively understand that play is absolutely critical to our development as human beings. Through play, we test and rehearse the skills that we will need later on in life, not just to survive, but also to thrive. So play as a behavior, it allows us to push boundaries, both physical boundaries, so our boundaries of how high we can jump, how fast we can run, how quickly we can climb something, but also in terms of our mental and social capabilities. So pushing boundaries in terms of what our connections are to the human beings around us and how we can interrelate in the most positive way with the people and the animals and nature around us. It allows us to really truly innovate because we're constantly pushing boundaries in a relatively safe environment. So play provides that safety for us to be able to create and innovate. And I think we've really forgotten this joy and the potential of play as a behavior to be able to contribute and prepare children to a more complex and constantly changing world. And the research overwhelmingly shows the benefits of play. We had the word cloud at the beginning expressing what play means to us. One of the biggest words was fun. I think this idea of happiness, play equals happiness, is something that comes across really strongly usually. But also, apart from it increasing our happiness, it also increases our health and well-being and many other developmental skills. So we know that children who play more are able to have increased social skills. They have skills in assessing risks, of course, motor and cognitive skills, problem-solving skills, but also really important skills, which we call 21st century skills, such as resilience or creativity, empathy, skills that are really required to things that people are seeking in workers these days, in knowledge workers. But sadly, what we've observed over the past few decades is that children are actually playing a lot less now than they were in previous generations, particularly when it comes to outdoor play. So children in Australia spend less than, or 25% of children in Australia spend less than 2 hours per week playing outdoors, and a vast majority of Australian children don't undertake the recommended minimum amount of physical activity every day. We also know that we have some of the highest rates of childhood overweight and obesity in the world, as well as some of the highest rates of children being driven to school. So we know that about 60% of children are driven to school compared to just 16% in the 1970s. So I think there's a lot of reasons for this decline in play. There's obviously social reasons for this. There's changes to lifestyle in parents that affect the way that children play outside. There's things such as technology, there's academic pressures, things such as stranger dangers. So there's various social reasons why we're seeing children playing less and less these days. But from a built environment perspective, there also has been a lot of barriers that have limited the opportunities for children to be able to play outside. So when we think about spaces for play in our built environment, we often think of very much designated and contained, defined zones for play, which we typically call the playground. So children are usually driven from home to school, and if they're lucky, they might be driven to a playground or to an organised sports activity, and these are often really defined zones. If you think about this in a sort of situation of COVID, how we're starting to think about work also, we've really thought of work for the past generation or two as very much a contained activity that happens within the formal office. In the same way, I think we think about play as something that's a very contained activity that happens in the playground. And yet, as we're discovering now, is that actually there could be far more diverse and exciting opportunities for work, so both formal and informal opportunities for working within our neighbourhoods, but also I think that we should think about play in the same way. So rather than thinking about a playground in a neighbourhood, it's rather thinking about the entire neighbourhood as an opportunity for a network of playful opportunities that could range between formal and informal opportunities, small and large things all coming together into a network rather than one sort of defined space for that. So I'm going to go through a couple of interventions now, things that I've observed on my travels that I think were really challenging the idea of a playground and challenging where play should and could happen. The first one is the idea of a playable street. So of course, typically we think of streets as places for movement of pedestrians, of cars, of cyclists. But in fact, as you know, many of you would remember from your own childhoods, streets being amazing spaces for play also. So there's been some really interesting sort of interventions overseas to try and get kids to play out on the streets a little bit more. This one's a really simple one, which is seen all over Europe. These are some photos from Germany. It's called the home zone. It's basically saying that a street shouldn't just be for cars, it should also be for people to use and for kids to play on. So by painting a simple graphic on the ground, you're all of a sudden changing the behaviour of that space and allowing kids, giving permission for kids to be able to use that space for play. Another example is from London, Play Street. What the architects here have done, they've just simply painted graphics on the ground and they've provided some really playful interventions on the side. So you can see some sort of logs playfully scattered on the sides, a hammock on the side there, providing a perfect surface for kids to be skating up and down, logs on the side for the little ones to kind of sit along, as well as the hammocks on the side to really create those playful opportunities. And importantly, these spaces are directly outside of the residential houses there. You can see the apartments in the background. So it means that the kids are able to basically open their door and play directly outside. They don't need to be driven anywhere. They can be just playing directly on their doorstep. And this is a really critical aspect to enabling this to happen really freely and sort of really often also. The second idea is an idea of a play box. So placing a box within a shared open space within a neighbourhood, which has a variety of toys and equipment for children to use. So these are some photos from Rotterdam. You can see the play box is basically a converted shipping container. Every neighbourhood, every child within the neighbourhood has a membership card to a play box. Basically acts like a library card. They can come in the afternoon and rent out play equipment of their choice. So it might be an interesting looking bike or skates, a puzzle, whatever it might be, but it's not intended to be taken home. But the play equipment is used in the space itself. So it creates a sense of community. These spaces are often run by volunteers, which are often grandparents. So it creates that social opportunity also for the elderly to be able to come together within the space. And it really normalizes the idea of outdoor play. So just by providing a couple of loose toys, children are all of a sudden able to be welcome within these spaces and freely play and connect with one another. A simpler version of this, which I saw in Tokyo, is the idea of play ranges in parks. So the council within most neighbourhoods in Tokyo will sponsor play ranges, who are basically trained play workers who will wear vests, and they are within these public spaces for a number of hours every afternoon, and they initiate playful opportunities for children. So in some of the photos there, you can see the play workers that are stringing string along the trees for the children to balance on. And they also bring out various craft activities for the kids to play with. So once again, it normalizes play. It creates opportunities for children to get to know one another. And it also means that the kids can be playing out on their own as they're being looked after by the play rangers who are looking after the general safety of the space. So a really simple way to initiate play within an existing space. Another idea is the urban play yard. So this is the photo that I showed at the beginning was from a play yard. These are quite common in Japan, but also in the UK. And these are basically sort of wild urban play spaces, which are filled with incredible loose parts, recycled materials. They're meant to be really messy, creative spaces. You can see there's makeshift equipment, usually play equipment, slides, mud. Kids going into these spaces are meant to get dirty. And there's always a lot of volunteers walking around to look after the general safety, as well as play workers. So they're also run by play workers who are there to initiate play and also look after the safety of the kids and the equipment also. So here you can see a little girl playing with the play worker, just with some recycled sort of materials that have been found within the neighbourhood. Apart from little kids, is also really great for the youth. So it's kind of becomes a social safety net for young people who might be having trouble at school or at home. The play workers are there to look after their well-being. So if a child is having any issues, they can report that back to the school. So it becomes a really great sort of in-between space for kids between the formal school and their home. Just play a, I'm not sure if this will play. Oh, you can see it's really great, particularly in spaces where, or in countries where there's one child within the family. So these three boys didn't know one another. But they often come at the same time, so they've almost become siblings. But you can see the older two ones pulling up the little one and helping him along the way, encouraging him up this makeshift sort of play slide, and then helping him up. So it creates these incredibly sort of creative opportunities for kids to be able to problem solve and also improve social skills. There's also a series of rules that the children have to follow. So making sure that they look after one another and they look after the space around them. So it really instills that sense of responsibility in them. Just a few photos from play yards in London also. You can see the kids here, you know, it's just such a joyful space for kids to be able to do what kids love most, which is pretty simple sort of play behaviours. Another idea is playing along the way. So this is really trying to encourage children to be a little bit more active and putting playful opportunities along children's travel routes. So some photos from San Francisco. You can see just simple posters on the walls or on the ground to remind kids to jump, to skip, to get them really active, or something as simple as a chalkboard on the side of the wall, which can really create a playful opportunity for children. This is a really beautiful example called the Urban Thinkscape, and it's located right next to a bus stop, where in an area where what the council sort of recognised is that many of the younger children were being taken care by their grandparents, who would often catch public transport. So they decided to, along public transport routes, create these bursts of play opportunities games, puzzles, which grandparents could play along with their children while they're waiting for the bus. So once again, very simple way to initiate that playful space in a small amount of space. And then finally, looking at the idea of nature play. So of course, as our cities continue to urbanize, the importance of being able to be connected to nature, and for children to actually find, to develop a love for nature, critical for them to be, I suppose, to be more sustainable and to be custodians of the future natural environment is really, really critical in that way. So allowing for natural landscapes within our urban environment to be playful spaces, and actively encouraging small play interventions within natural scapes. And some really beautiful photos from Belgium, where they have these things called play valleys. Within, it might be just a wild natural space, they'll put these play structures, which are made of natural materials for kids to climb on, to jump over, really sort of simple interventions for kids to be active. They also train their maintenance workers in Belgium to keep to recycle offcuts of while they're maintaining the trees around them. So you can see here a cubby house made of willow branches. So the maintenance workers know that when they cut down the willow trees, they need to keep the branches in order to create cubbies for the kids on the side of the road. They also know that when, for example, they're cutting down a tree, they need to call up a play worker to see whether or not the tree log could actually be arranged in such a way to create a play intervention for the kids on the side of the road. So a really beautiful way to celebrate play by creating those networks between maintenance workers and play workers. And then an intervention which I really love from Antwerp, which is the idea of a play day. So every year they have a play day where children or school principals are not allowed to give homework on that day, and every kids channel on TV is blacked out so that children know that on this day they need to go out and play. And it really creates this atmosphere of it's normal to go out and play, and it's very much encouraged by the government for kids to do it. And on that day, you see a huge amount of kids out on the streets playing and creating those friendships that they'll use throughout the year. So really, to summarize, I think that we should be looking at play in a much, much more complex way than what we are at the moment. So rather than thinking of a neighbourhood with a playground, instead we should be looking at a neighbourhood with diverse network of play opportunities, which range in scale, they range in formality, and of course address different ages of children to really promote play outside. Of course, if there's any questions about what or how we could do this, the first thing is ask children themselves, and often they have much better ideas than adults. This is a photo from a workshop I ran earlier in the year with children in Brisbane who were to redesign their neighbourhood, and their ideas were far beyond any sort of idea that any adult could come up with. So I'll end with a quote from Pat Kane, the author of the book, The Play Ethic. He says, "Play will be to the 21st century what work was to the industrial age, a dominant way of knowing, doing, and creating value." I think that play is so critical to the development of us as human beings, and we really need to start with how we can initiate more opportunities for children to play, and then thinking that through all the way into the workplace and how we can initiate more play there, which hopefully we'll talk about a little bit later on in the evening. So if you have any questions for me, please feel free to contact me on social media or email. Yeah, thank you.
So thank you very much, Natalia. That was really insightful. It's I think there's a few moments I loved. Like I love the concept of a play ranger, and I want that job title.
Get in the queue.
Yeah, it just sounds awesome. Like if I could turn my day job into being a play ranger at work, and it'd be funny to see if the team was more productive if I called myself a play ranger.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'd be a nice experiment to play with as well. The other thing that really stood out for me was the concept of giving permission to play, and it's an interesting paradox, because it's sort of like you create these great play spaces, but they have to do something to make it sure people know you have permission to play, and it's like, why do we need to have permission to play? And I think that's probably part of the problem. As we get older, we tend to sort of lose that knack for play, and it's and the last thing I sort of played on in my mind when I was going through it was the context of mindfulness and play as well, because mindfulness isn't always about meditation, and sometimes play is a way to be mindful. And the fact that we have the concept of play along the way, and I always try and coach my teams and people I interact with to just stop, take a deep breath, and just be mindful before you move from one interaction to another. And you could probably do the same thing with play. You could probably have some way of being mindful, just do something simple and silly, have a bit of fun between one thing and the next, just to insert a bit of fun in your life. And as Arun mentioned, it's about freedom and being carefree. So some great insights as to what I was going through in my mind. Hopefully you guys shared some of those thoughts, or at least had your own thoughts that sort of sparked a bit of curiosity. So what we'll do next, we might just break into, having shared my thoughts of the talk, I'd love if you guys just break into smaller breakout rooms for, we'll probably say 10 minutes. We'll mix it up as being, say, 5 minutes to a chat, 5 minutes of a break, and we'll come back in 10 minutes, and then we'll hand over to James, and we'll talk more about play in the workspace and play in adulthood. So yeah, maybe Kate, we can break them out into groups of maybe. Do you enjoy the chat? Did you enjoy the sharing concepts of play? And yeah,
were we supposed to have a 5-minute break as well?
We were, but I think we just kept talking.
That's what it ended up with us as well.
Yeah, I think if you're engaging in conversation, it's like, do you want to go and have a break? Oh no, let's just keep going.
It's all Natalia's fault.
But that, yeah, we'll have to get less inspiring speakers next time. Sorry, guys. Does everyone need a break? Does everyone want to have a couple of minute break to go and refresh, or do you want to keep kicking on? Does everyone want to keep going? Thumbs up.
Keep going.
Keep going. Yep. Okay. Thumbs up. Keep going. Okay. Brilliant. Okay, so that brings us to James. So James, I have had the pleasure of meeting James. He's a master of all trades, or jack of all trades, master of none, I should say. And it's apart from one thing, he does love the concept of play, and I've attended a couple of his play workshops in the past, and hopefully he'll share some of those experiences with you this evening. He also spends a lot of time coaching teams on various aspects of ways of working. So it talks about design thinking, talks about trying to open your mind up to new ways of working, and obviously talking about agile and all those sorts of things. He also is a bit of a life coach. He's doing a bit of work with an organisation called, what is it? For some reason I can't remember it now.
Transition Hub?
The Transition Hub, yes. So doing a bit of coaching there as well from a life perspective. So he's got various roles, and he does a lot contributing to his local community as well. So I'm really looking forward to this talk. It's obviously we've spoken about creating playful spaces for kids. Now we're probably turning it into a bit of a different context and talking about professional life and adulthood and moving from childhood through to adulthood. Which is obviously where we are now. And so, yes, over to you, James.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Lucas. And thank you guys for still sticking around to hear my portion of the talk. I'm really grateful that you didn't leave with an audience, but I would have spoken to a few anyhow. So my name is James Zhang. I am an enterprise ways of working coach. It's just a fancier name for an agile coach at CBA at the moment. Essentially, I don't think too much about what the name means, rather than what Lucas has kind of touched on is my passion is just to help people. And tonight I'm very privileged to be here to share with you my experience of play at work and how I've been trying to, slot it in there a little bit more and kind of see what happens, whether people will like it or not. So my purpose for the talk of tonight is to help you expand your view and perception of play. What is it? Because we all have our own different views, and we saw that with the word cloud earlier. And I spotted one of the words that popped up, and it said opposite of work, which I thought was very interesting, because I'm like, well, I'm trying to bring the two together. I'm trying to think about how do we make work and play work together, you know, and have fun at work. And so that's generally like what I try to do on a day-to-day basis. I'm a bit of a joker as well, so I like to just have fun. And you'll probably see that throughout my talk as well. So I'll pop up my slides, and I'm going to hope that everything is going to work. If it doesn't, I'll take a failure bow. Okay. Now, give me a thumbs up if you guys can see that. Brilliant. Awesome. Okay, I got to remember, because I've got a separate screen for my slides. So I'm going to do my best to look at the camera. There's like all this camera etiquette stuff going on. And, and you guys know all that kind of stuff, especially in this virtual world. All right, so I've kind of titled my talk around intentional growth with play. And we've heard so much wonderful stuff from Natalia already about how it helps us enhance our learning, our growth, our development as children, but it doesn't stop there. Play doesn't stop there. That helps us to continue to learn and grow. And I want to share some of the experiences that I've had as well. So thank you, Natalia, for sharing that wonderful talk. It definitely brought back childhood memories. When I saw the street one, it instantly reminded me of when I was a kid. You know, when you walk and there's like cement lines or tiles lines and things like that? But as a kid, I was like, I can't step on the line. If I step on the line, bad things will happen. Who's done that? Just a quick show of hands. I want to see how many people have had that experience. Look at that. I can't believe it. It's like, what is it that kids think that I can't step on the line? If I step on it, bad things will happen. You know, it's so interesting that so many of you guys can associate with that, which is cool. All right, cool. I want to do a quick riddle. I don't want to just talk to you guys. I want to sort of interact as much as possible, because that's playing. It's having fun. Okay. So I'm going to prep you guys right now. If you can, grab a pen, grab a piece of paper. Okay, so make sure I've got Post-it notes. I'm an Agile coach, so all I do is walk around with Post-it notes and Sharpies. If anybody that knows about Agile.
Oh, you've come to the right meetup, because I think we're all about. You
guys do the same thing. You just use it's a battle between how much Post-it note pads can you get through in one session. Okay, so grab that, and we're going to use that shortly. So first of all, I'm going to put a riddle up on the screen. I want you to see if you can solve it. Either shout it out or pop it into the chat, whatever you're comfortable with. Here's the riddle. See if you can solve it. Zoe, who is the surgeon?
It's the mum.
It's the mum. Who thought the dad? Be honest. Okay. Yeah, see, look. It's okay to fail. Thank you for being honest, all you wonderful people. And the thing is that with our minds, right, we have these biases, and it sometimes is that our mind gets tricked because immediately you read a father and son at the start of the sentence. So your brain's already going father, son. And so that's kind of like it holds that thought. So I want to show you guys a little bit. I'm not a neuroscientist or anything like that, guys. So don't worry. I'm not going to share about that stuff. I'm not going to claim to know anything about that. But I will share some of the things that I have learned from other people. Okay, let's get this moving. And I'm hoping that it's still working. Fantastic. Oh, there we go. All right, take a quick look at this. I love showing this at work. Okay, see if those things have happened to you already throughout tonight. Put your hand up if you have already had one of those experiences. Yeah, it's good fun, isn't it? So my one is always relief at seeing other human beings. One I like is checking out co-workers' houses. So I'm looking at some of the stuff you guys got right now, and that tells a lot about somebody. So I feel like I get that much more connected with people. I've definitely had the removal of kids from the bedroom. Who's had that before? Yeah. And it's okay, it's okay. And especially Lucas, your kids just love camera time. It's so cool. Okay, awesome. So I want to be a little bit real with you guys. And for one of the things I'm trying to do at work is to be more human. And this is a portrait of my family. And I'm kind of taking it from the amazing Aboriginal people. So I'm in Campbelltown, and I believe that's where the Dharawal people are. So paying respects to the people of that land. And so one of the activities we've done recently, which is really cool, is part of the black card training. Who's heard of the black card training before? Put your hand up if you have. It's this really cool training that goes deeper into Aboriginal culture and something that is being promoted at CBA, which is really, really wonderful. It's one of the things that I am quite proud of for working in an organization like CBA that does value culture and people and what they believe for and all that kind of stuff. And they do this thing where they do introductions, not like how the Western world does it. They don't introduce themselves like, my name is James, I'm an agile coach, I do blah, 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 blah. They actually start talking about, my name is James, and these are my parents. I have these many siblings. I have an older brother. He's 33, I think. Yes, he's 33. So my parents are from northwest of China. I'm actually also have Russian blood in me because my grandmother's side, my great-grandmother was full Russian. And so we basically go deeper into things about who we are as humans, and we build deeper connections, because when we have more richer relationships and connections, we get better results at work. We're more engaged as people. And because when you think about it, we spend about 40 hours a week with these people that we work with. So how often have we taken time out to get to know these people, right? So I'm going to go back to this and I'm going to describe, and I thought about what is really important to me and what do I really want people to know about me. And I start with this picture. You can see my son on the bottom left-hand corner. He's got that goofy face. Okay, he's a spitting image of me being goofy, essentially, is how I see it. His name is Joel. The little one's Levi. He's a little bit bigger now. And the middle one is Sophia and my wife, Sherelle, on the right-hand side. I love showing this picture because also when we went to go take that professional photo, it was about, I'm going to say 5 minutes out of a few hours of happiness right there. Because that day, they just did not want to stay still. It's just like, children, you can't plan it. You can't, it's a chaos. It's a chaotic world that you're dealing with there. So I usually like to use this as a story and analogy to help people understand not to always feel like you have to be professional, not to always feel like you have to have it all together. So I use this as a way of saying, and to go, well, don't always post stories or tell stories about your successes. Tell about your failures too, you know, share those kind of things. So a little bit more about myself and how I describe myself. I am a husband, I'm a father, I'm a Christian, I'm a musician, I'm a coach. And a coach is just what I think of as an honest friend. My primary love languages, for any of those who have heard of the 5 love languages, is words of affirmation. So if you say nice things to me, I'll love you forever for it. I'm also a Clifton Strengths certified coach. So my top 5 strengths are connectedness, developer, positivity, belief, and strategic. And I've been working on this statement of my why for a while now. And I believe it is to help inspire other people to live a full life through unconditional love. And that is essentially that I will want to make every interaction with other people as genuine and as authentic as possible to show that I care about you as a human, as opposed to it's just another transaction or what am I looking to get from you. I want to be the type of person that is giving. I want to give something to you. And I hope that tonight I am able to give something to you that encourages you, inspires you, or helps you add play to work. So what is play? And I've been thinking about, in simplest terms, I think play is around curiosity, it's imagination, and I love this last one, it's possibilities. It opens up doors to new things. Like Natalia mentioned, it's about pushing boundaries. If you're not pushing boundaries, I don't think you're actually playing, right? And the common thing that I do hear people say is things like, let's try this out, or let's play around with this. You know, that's play at work, how you can spot it out at work. When we experiment, that's play as well. What are the benefits of play? And I'm thinking about how I want to share some experiences with you, which is around learning, creative problem solving, and building teams. The experiences that I've had at work so far are those 3 types of things. And I want to share a few more things with you guys. Now, I said that there was going to be a short section about science because I'm not a scientist. So I'm going to do my best not to screw this up. But because we're playing with it, I think I'm okay. I'm in a safe environment to do so. Okay, so there are 3 powerful chemicals at play here whenever we do certain things. And these 3 chemicals are dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphins. So what do they do and how do they get triggered? Let's have a look at dopamine first. What it does, it helps you to have better focus and have better memory. And the triggers are things like a reward or listening to music. Has anybody ever played that game before? Put your hand up if you have. Put your hand if you're still addicted. For what reason? What does it give you? Nothing. Nothing other than the fact that says, I solved it. You know, you feel good about it. It's that reward trigger and you will never forget it. You know, I was so addicted at one point that I was dreaming about freaking Candy Crush. I was just like, I gotta stop. I gotta hold back a little bit because when I closed my eyes, I was picturing things moving around and trying to solve it in my head. I was like, this is getting bad. All right, let's move on to the next one, oxytocin. So what does that give us? It gives us the trust and safety feeling that we have with people. And the trigger for that is human connection, like physical touch or hugging people, you know, hugging somebody for an extended long period of time. And I do absolutely miss hugging my colleagues at work. We are great friends and you can't do that anymore. So I'm hugging more of my family, which is good. And the other thing is also things like quality time. And when I say quality time, I'm talking about things like sharing meaningful experiences, being authentic and saying, hey, this is something that I really struggled with, and then connecting on that deeper level. That's what really does create trust and safety for us to be able to be ourselves at work. So there's a little moment with little cubs hugging each other. Endorphins, so having a look at that, is what it does is it creates less stress and less pain. Who would like less stress in their life? I know I do. I absolutely do. And the trigger for that is laughing, it's dancing, and I absolutely love watching comedy. I know whenever I feel down, you know what I do? I'll go watch a funny video. You know, that's actually something that I've taught myself to do now. Like when I'm feeling bad, I'm like, stuff this, I want to watch something funny and laugh it off, right? Dancing, I put there as well, because recently in lockdown, I've been playing Just Dance with the kids, and it's quite funny. It's quite silly too if you record yourself, and it's fun to watch it back. So Mr. Bean is always a classic, right? We all know Mr. Bean. He is good fun to watch and laugh at. So I'm going to go into the next part, which is taking a look at what does it look like? And I want to give you guys some examples. And I want to play a video for you guys. I'm hoping that I don't screw this up. Like I said, you guys are such lovely people and this is a safe environment. So let's have a look. Share screen. And I want you to watch this video and hopefully it's not too loud. I have turned the volume down, but let's see how this goes.
With Tyrone. Are you going trick-or-treating? No, probably. No, probably. No.
Okay. I was sharing this with Lucas and Natalia the other week, and I could picture it. My favorite part is when the guy drops into the bin and the lid shuts. That's my favorite part of the entire clip. Hopefully you guys did find it funny and not offensive in any way. But hopefully you did find it enjoyable. Anyway. So the other day I was sharing with Lucas and Natalia, and I literally started cracking up to the point where I couldn't breathe. That's my favorite moment, when you're laughing so hard that you can hardly breathe. That really does bring me joy, and I want more of those moments. Sadly, they're rare and they don't happen that often. Anyhow, so what other types of play are we looking at? This bit, I want to tell you a quick story about myself. When I was 17, I think. This is near the end of high school. And this is where play kind of didn't work out for me, but also did in the end. So when I was 17, it was literally the end of the year 12. I didn't do so well academically, but I'm Asian and I play the piano, okay? So I had that going for me. I've been playing for about 10 years there, and I'm like, okay, cool, I love music. And you know what? I wanna go for the Conservatorium of Music. A week before that, I was at a friend's birthday party and we were cleaning up at the very end. We were trying to grab all the helium balloons together. There's a part in that community hall where the building kind of goes into an apex. And so there was some balloons up there, and I see my friends kind of going like this and trying to jump and trying to reach for it. So then I turn to one of my mates and he gets down on one knee and he does this, and he like does this to me. So the next thought I had was, I'm kind of like hyped up, right? Like in the moment, I was thinking, I'm Asian, I've probably got ninja genes, I should be able to do this. So I take a step back, I run up, I jump, I step onto his hand, and I remember the resistance. He pushes me up. The next thing I know, I'm not getting the balloon, because in my mind, I'm like, this is a hero moment. So what actually happens is he flips me and I go horizontal and I crash down onto the ground and I broke my arm. So I can see the scars. Can you guys see this? I've got the scar to prove it. I break my arm 1 week before the Conservatorium of Music, and I'm unable to take the audition, sadly. So that was kind of the end of that pathway for my career. But you know what? That opened up opportunities for other areas, and now I get to be an agile coach after 13 years of working at the Commonwealth Bank, which has turned out okay at the end, I think, anyway, for me. But that does create some things around our thoughts of why we stop playing. And usually it's the fear of something going wrong and managing that. So even in our workplaces, I do want you to think about being responsible with play. If you're working with senior executives, you do want to think about not doing something overly silly, because they're just going to write you off. Unless if you have a great relationship with them and then you want to introduce something like that, then it might be helpful. For example, one of the times that I spent with a few EMs and a GM in the room, executive managers and general managers, in case I'm going on acronym city because I work for CBA. What I did one time was they asked me to do an activity on a Monday morning for their 1 day offsite. And I thought, okay, what could I do? Get them to connect more, because that's my thing. I like people to connect more as humans. So I gave them paper and I gave them a pen and I said, I want you to draw what your weekend was like. And so they did it. They drew what the weekend was like, and then they shared it, and they could actually use visuals and also tell a story about what happened, so they could connect more and have a little bit of fun whilst doing that. So you can play with senior leaders, just see how you go. Okay. So I mentioned before that it enhances learning, enhances creative problem solving, and it builds teams. So let's do a bit of that. First one, enhancing learning. I want you to grab that pen and that piece of paper that you had before, post-it notes, whatever it is you've got. And I want you to do this. I want you to draw a rabbit. In your mind, whatever you think a rabbit looks like, I want you to draw a rabbit. And then once you're done, if you can put it up into the camera for everybody to see. So when you're done, hopefully this works. Show your rabbit. What does your rabbit look like? This is a design thinking group, so surely you guys can draw a rabbit. Okay, very cool, very cool, very cool, very cool. Love it. Look at that. I love that rabbit. Wow. Amazing, amazing. That is amazing. I love it. Thank you, guys. The thing that I like to share with people here, and part of learning, is that by doing that, I can show you that we don't think the same. Does everybody agree to that? Not one of us drew the exact same type of rabbit, right? We all had one that was facing the other way or the other way, facing frontwards. Some just had a head. Some was a little bit outgoing. And that is the beauty of diversity, that we all bring a different perspective. So how do we help everybody learn through different types of play? And this is one simple way that I introduce concepts to people, by getting them to interact and then introduce a topic or concept. So I want to show you a few other things. Everybody's seen this before or solved one of these before? Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. This, yes, still going okay. This one, my background, all good. Yeah, I'm fond of Mario. I grew up playing Mario. I was like, I'm the Mario king. Of the old school Mario on Super Nintendo system, I'm probably not so good anymore. All right. I want to show you a couple of images of what I've done at work. So as part of a coach, we do a lot of training courses, etc. And this one here is Kanban board. And we use the Kanban board game for those who know what Kanban is. And we teach through playing a game. It is really, really cool. People love it, engage, stay interactive, engaged, and actually learn something, which is really cool. This one here is a bit of a puzzle. This is a really cool puzzle. It's called Challenging Assumptions by RSVP. And you cannot solve the puzzle with how you normally think of solving a jigsaw puzzle. So if you played the game before, you know what I'm talking about, but I'm not going to reveal the answer to you in case you do play it one day. There's a game that we play called the ballpoint game, and we use that as a way of illustrating how do we quickly get a ball from one end to another end, including everybody into the room, and continually challenging them of, how can we do it faster? And I want you to think about the structure. I want you to think about how we position ourselves and think beyond just moving something quicker. Yeah. And recently, it's really cool. There's a Scrum Master meetup group that I was part of recently, and they've done this theme around creating a meetup, and it's like Jumanji, the next level. And because they were going for what's the next level of virtual facilitation, and then that's what they came up with, and I'm really proud of it because they came up with themselves. Okay, play encourage creative problem solving. I want you to grab your pen and paper or Post-it note once again, and I want you to think about this problem. There is a chicken that loves crossing the road, but one day he loses his legs. I want you to draw a solution for that. He needs to get to the other side. He doesn't have any more legs. Draw a solution. Go. When you're done, pop it up for us to have a look at. Oh, making his wings, he's able to fly with his wings. A skateboard, love it. What else do we have? What? A wheelchair, nice. Skateboard, 2 skateboards, love that. KFC. I'll ruin that start, bro. Okay, wonderful. And so that's just like one way. I want you to think about, yeah, skateboard, more skateboards, love it. I want you to think about doing this next time. When you need to creatively problem solve something, I want you to give them a piece of paper or ask them, because we're working remotely, ask them to grab a piece of paper and a pen and draw the solution. What does that look like? You're gonna get more creative responses. So I want to share with you what I did one time with a group. So this here is a HR team. They're a team that does talent acquisition and hiring people. Okay, so they're one of the teams in there. And so basically, we were teaching them Agile 101. And I was thought about, well, what is it that you kind of want to get out of this session? And I wanted to walk away. I want them to walk away thinking differently. So I gave them a bunch of these magazines, gave them scissors, gave them rulers, whatever it is to be creative. And I said, I want you to imagine creating your workplace, what you do on a day-to-day basis, your process, and make that into a board game. And they created this. It's like snakes and ladders, essentially, which is pretty cool. And what they've done is they put on a blue stickies different things that would either allow them to progress to the next stage or to regress. Okay, so part of the HR process of hiring can be quite difficult. And then what emerged was quite fascinating. They said to me, I said, if people play this game, and imagine that I'm a person that wants to be hired for the organization. If I play this game and I get to the end, does that mean I'm hired? And they said, no. I said, well, what do you mean? They said, well, there's 3 other teams. So I said, does that mean that they have to play one game and then play 3 other games in order to get hired? They're like, yeah. I'm like, that sounds absurd, doesn't it? It sounds crazy. And so by doing that, it helps them to also connect and think about that as well, because otherwise they never would have thought about their current process and changing that. So that's something you guys can do to help. And the last one that I want to talk about was play builds great teams. That is my team there. You can see we're a bit crazy. We're a little bit of an animal kind of pack. And I absolutely love my team. We are so comfortable to be around each other, and I get great joy at being at work. But you don't just kind of get there by accident. And like I said earlier, play has to be intentional. We have to intentionally grow and apply that. And a lot of it does have to do with leadership. But all of us are leaders, because leadership is about influence and not about the position that you hold, right? So I want to ask the question with you all. Does it really though? Does play really build teams? So I tried something. I like experimenting and trying things. So I asked this question: could we increase psychological safety through play? So I don't really know. So I wanted to try something. It was a really small experiment. I ran a 2-hour workshop designed to do a number of activities. And before I started that workshop, I asked these series of questions. If I make a mistake in this team, it is not held against me. Or it's safe to take a risk on this team. I can approach anyone on this team for help and know that they've got my back. No one undermines my efforts on this team, and I am valued by my team based on who I am and what I bring. So 5 different types of questions. And the people that I gathered together were pretty much complete strangers. Some of them kind of knew each other, but they didn't really. It was an opportunity for me to test this out. So I had about, I think, 10 people, because I think most of the other people were put off by the word play at work. So I'm really appreciative that they did come along. Essentially, I did 2 hours of facilitator-led activities. I'd done a number of things like icebreakers, energizers, and I inserted one that was a little bit more sensitive, a little bit more authentic, and it was based around this technique I learned, which is sharing who you were as a child, as a teenager, and how that shaped you as an adult. Okay, so then I shared a lot of those things about myself and going first, because I wanted to make sure that they felt comfortable to share whatever they wanted to share. That was one of the main things that I did. I did a number of other activities as well, but that was all centered around that, to do the other things by easing them into the process so that I don't feel like, oh my gosh, I have to share about my personal life without even knowing anybody. So you got to be thoughtful about how to introduce things and ease them into the process. So what happened? These were my results. The score before overall was about 3.27. And then afterwards, it actually put 4.44, which I thought was really, really interesting. Now, don't take this as absolutely it'll work every single time. It was an experiment with 10 people for over 2 hours. So the experiment was, if I did something, if I tried something different, will it yield a result? And then that's kind of me exercising play at work, experimental with something. So make sure you do measure it, otherwise you don't really know. Get feedback from the people that you work with and see what happens. So I want to ask you this question: how will you add play into your workplace? At the start of the talk, I mentioned that I want to bring work and play together. I don't want people to think of play as the opposite of work, because that's kind of like, it's not as effective. So I want to say thank you. If you want to connect, I am on LinkedIn. That was my why, and the thing is popping up weird. There we go. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, James. That was really great. I think, again, more great insights on play. I think one of the biggest things for me that I took out of that was almost like play is about exploring, and through exploring you see, through seeing you learn. And it's really about play and perspective. And perspective is always a big thing for me. And when we're talking about design thinking, it's always about what is the perspective of the end user and trying to put yourself in the context of somebody else. And I'm actually wondering if there's ways you can incorporate play in the way you do design research to think about exploring how people react to certain things. Or and that's just an interesting concept that I haven't quite thought as to how you might do it, but it's an interesting thought nonetheless. So thank you so much for those insights. I think what we'll do now, and I do want to, actually the other thing I want to find out about is this black card training. I'm really interested to find out more about that. So I'm going to connect with you after this as well.
Yeah, I'll pop it into the chat. I'll have a quick look at it now.
Yeah, it'd be great. Actually, there was a question. I think the first game, what was the name of the first game? There was a question that popped up during the talk that you wouldn't have noticed. It was, what's the name of the first game that you showed as a Kanban game or something?
Ah, right, the Kanban board game.
Yeah. And is that something you built yourself, or is that something that's available for people?
No, it's available online for purchase. I didn't design or anything. It's something that one of the coaches in my team brought to us, and we designed a one-day training course around that. It's really, really awesome.
Yeah, cool. So what we might do, we might share a link on our meetup page afterwards where you can find that if anybody's interested in finding out more about that. Now, just before we break up this evening, we're going to go one more breakout session, have a chat. Now, in this breakout session, we'll put you in groups of 5. Have a chat, talk about your experience tonight, talk about perspectives. If you are curious about anything, as a group, you'll get to raise a question and ask a question as a team. So even if you're an introvert and you don't like talking in big groups like this, find out who the extrovert is and convince them to ask your question for you. And then we'll have a bit of a short panel conversation with James and Natalia. I know there's already one coming your way, James. Someone asked a really good question in the last breakout room. So it's yeah, let's all have another 5-minute chat, and then within that 5 minutes, the group you're with has to ask one question for James and Natalia.